So season 8 episode 1, not a lot happened this episode. This was a rather slow episode, or as we prefer to refer to it as a deliberately paced episode. I mean, I was expecting. I had a few discussions with some friends who were watching also, and I mean, we were betting as to whether or not this the very first episode was going to be like just action packed and destruction and death, and I was in the camp of, okay, since this is a short season, we're going to be seeing a lot of action, and we're going to see the White Walkers marching on Winterfell and all that craziness, and we got none of that. That's not to say it's a bad thing. This was, I mean, as we progress into the season, obviously, so this is the last season, so we will see that encounter eventually. This was more so about alliances and forming alliances, and how difficult it can be, right? All the intricacies that are involved with it's basically politics, right? John finally returned home. We did get to see a lot of interaction with a lot of the characters who we have not seen together, at least not on screen together, since season 1, and a lot of us have been looking forward to that. I mean, the Hound, Arya, John, yeah, a lot of it involved Arya. I mean, we finally get to see a lot of these characters on screen back for the first time in years, right? And that was something very much look forward to, and so I didn't mind because of those conversations and the dialogue. But I didn't particularly mind that it was a bit of a slow episode. Back to the alliances. I mean, John returned back to the north, but of course, accompanied by Daenerys. And I don't know whether or not they are keeping their relationship a secret. I mean, while at Winterfell, they made it very. They kept themselves pretty much apart, right? They didn't make it obvious that they had slept together, or that they're in love or anything like that. But the moment that they flew away, conveniently, because the dragons weren't eating yet, somehow when they got there, they just forgot about that issue altogether. And so they had a kiss and stuff, but they didn't seem to do that when they were at Winterfell. Maybe not to discourage, maybe not to encourage some of the arguments going around that the decision that he has made to bend a knee was made for other reasons and not so much for the alliance. Which Sansa pointed out, and let's be fair, she has a point. I'm one of those persons who's not necessarily in the John camp, right? Where in terms of decisions that he has made throughout the series, they've been bad. Honestly, you have to admit, even if you're a fan of John, he makes bad decisions, and decisions based on how he feels in the moment, and what his heart tells him to do, which isn't always the best decision. And in this instance, I mean, it's a rare occasion where he has made the right decision, just not necessarily for the right reason, right? So I do believe that he made the right decision, but what led to him making that decision had more to do with how he was feeling about Daenerys, and not so much as tactically what they needed in terms of her forces to aid them in the war to come, right? So it's their suspicion of it's reasonable. Sansa's concerns reasonable also, and I mean, last season where we could say that she had some hidden motives, and where Littlefinger was whispering in her ear and saying, "Okay, you need to be the one in charge." Here it's a bit different. I mean, she doesn't care. She's not trying to be in charge, but she has done, and for whoever the persons are who hate Sansa so much, she has done a good job in rallying the houses together. And John, the moment he arrives, because of his decision, a lot of them have left. And I mean, they have to bear in mind that, all right, they are hard-headed, true, and I mean, they should be seeing the bigger picture and not focusing on who's in charge and who's not. But at the end of the day, they will have to think about what comes after, right? So maybe what they do need to do is, I mean, meet with all the leaders of the house. He just came with Daenerys. They didn't necessarily meet with her. He just came and said, okay, she's not the queen, I'm no longer the king, and that's it. right? So it may suit them better to maybe have some discussion to say, all right, this is what's happening now, but after this war has ended, even though we don't know if any of us will survive this, after this war has ended, this is what will happen. This is what I will do, or preferably not do, because I mean, the scenario with Sam where I mean, they went to see him to thank him for curing Jorah, but then she revealed that, oh hey, you're a Tarly. I'm sorry, I killed your father and your brother, right? So they need to address the different houses to say, okay, this is what I will do, this is what I will not do, i.e. I will not just execute people on a whim who refuse to kneel before me, and rightfully so. I mean, as with any conqueror, you're going to be met with resistance, and you can, of course, just execute everyone, but you win no favors by doing that, and you're certainly not going to win the hearts of the people. So that was a bad decision on her part. I mean, Tyrion had advised her against it, and she did it nonetheless. She did it anyway, right? And now we see the repercussions of that decision here. I do think Sam will come around eventually. I mean, his father was no saint. He did send him to the wall, so I don't think he's going to hold that over her head for too long. He still loved them, they were his family, but yeah, they treated him like shit though. But that said, I mean, the other houses who swore fealty to House Stark rightfully have some concerns about where she stands. So they may need to just address that before, I mean, going on the battlefield with these people who I don't particularly trust you, I'm not going to have your back when the worst does happen. What's to say that they won't just turn tail and run, right? So it's something that he definitely needs to address as to how. I mean, as I said, to meet with the members of the house, let them know that this isn't a dictatorship. She isn't going to be a tyrant like her father was, and she needs to persuade them that she's a much more decent person than her father before her, right? I mean, we also had we returned to King's Landing to see Cersei, of course, basking in her, her victory at this point, because she's assuming that everyone is there, everyone in the north is going to just perish, and she's going to be the one to rule over the ashes, so to speak. All right, so I'm not sure. I don't even think she's thinking this through. I would say that maybe she doesn't understand the gravity of the threat, but they did present it to her. They did show her that, okay, we cannot fight these things alone. But I suppose she believes if they kill enough, well, I mean, that doesn't even matter, because even if they fight and lose, the dead in the north would just become fodder for their army. So I don't see any situation under which she could possibly feel that she would have an upper hand if those in the north actually lost. If they lose, your chances of winning just got very slim. So I mean, she's not thinking that through. She finally gave in and slept with, what's his name, Euron. I slept with Euron, and he got what he wanted. And I listen, when he was introduced in the last season, I didn't particularly like him. I mean, he was funny, grossly so, but I don't know, a lot of what he accomplished, there seems to be a result of convenient writing, right? His ships somehow, and there's no way that you can possibly not see those ships coming. You have a giant kraken on the sails, right? But somehow he seems to be sneaking up on everyone with a giant fleet. So a lot of his feats just went over my head last season, because I'm like, okay, how did he get from here to there? How did no one see him coming? How? But he's funny. Hey, okay. So I mean, for the few comedic moments that he's enjoying, but as it is now, he wants more from his queen. What was promised to him, rightfully so, because he did promise her that, or she did make some promises to him before, and he did deliver his niece and destroyed her army. So he's been living up to his end of the bargain, and she really hasn't. So she has given him what he wanted now, which I don't know if that means anything, because as it is now, it's just sex. I mean, it's not like she's saying, okay, you're now going to rule beside me. She's queen regent now. I don't think she's in a hurry to declare anyone king. So I'm not sure what he expects to get out of it, and, at the end of all of this. But I mean, she is good at manipulating people, and she will manipulate him as much as she needs to get what she wants. Yeah, at the end of it, I don't know if for sure she will be the one to kill him, but I mean, he is arrogant, as she has said, and he's going to want more and more and more and more, and at a certain point she's just going to have the mountain kill him, and he must know this. So it's interesting, because I think they're both playing each other for gain. It's just a matter of who will take the next step to take the other one out first. And he has said, okay, if the worst should happen, he'll just sail his fleets elsewhere. They seem to be under the impression that the White Walkers are afraid of water. No, I mean, there was a lot of discussion about this when the dragon was finally taken down, as to, okay, how did they get the dragon out of the water if they're afraid of it, or they can't go into it, or whatever the case might be. Right? But somehow they managed to get giant chains around the dragon's neck and pull it out of the water. So still some question marks around that. So I mean, we're not entirely sure if that is the case, if they are weak to water, afraid of water, can't cross water, whatever the case might be. But they're operating under that assumption that is true, right? And somehow, if that is the case, I guess he can always. I mean, the Greyjoys are seamen, so they can always live off the sea. I guess is what Euron is thinking, and or he can just change alliances. I mean, not that anyone would trust him at this point. I certainly don't think anyone will. So he doesn't have a lot of options, and if he is on the losing side, he's gonna have to go down with the losing side. Theon had a bit of a redemption arc here, and it began in the last season. I mean, after his encounter with Jon, he finally got, I guess, the forgiveness that he was seeking, and we all hated him. We all hated him for a while, and we became sympathetic towards him after what he suffered at the hands of the Boltons and Ramsay. And no, they kind of went overboard with it last season, to be honest. I mean, yes, he was Reek for an entire season or more, and he just kept beating you over the head with it. Okay, he's a coward, he's a coward, he's a coward. So I think it's time now for him to, I want to say grow up here, but hey, it's not possible. It's good to see him back, right? Because, I mean, the very first time we were introduced to him, he was a bit of a prick, but he was a capable prick, right? So it'd be good to see him rejoin, the Starks. And, I mean, he's essentially a Stark, right? He was raised there, so it would be good to see all of them back together again, under different circumstances, of course, and without Robb. Sad. But, would it be good to see him fighting alongside them nonetheless. My favorite moment of the episode, of course, is the interaction between Arya and the Hound. And it was a bit brief, It was a bit brief. And they barely exchanged a few words with each other. I suspect we will see more. It's like, okay, yeah, you left me for dead, and yeah, okay, I robbed you. I also robbed you. But I was expecting something a bit. I mean, they didn't have a heartwarming relationship to begin with, but I would think that after all this time, she would look back at those moments and realize that, okay, he's been protecting me all this time, and initially he was doing it for money. Yes, true. but eventually I think he began to care for her and was trying to keep her out of harm's way, and I think she would have realized that by now. And so I was expecting something a bit more heartwarming and like, yeah, and the insults work though. That's kind of their thing, or at least the hounds anyway. I was fine with it. I was just expecting something a bit more towards the end there, but it's still satisfactory nonetheless. So for the most part, the better part of this episode was just seeing all of these characters come together and interact with each other, recount some of their experiences. We saw John and Arya finally back together. They show each other their weapons, like show me yours, I'll show you mine. Asked her if she's ever had to use needle. She said once or twice, although I suspect that she has used it quite a number of times beyond that. So yeah, it was a bold-faced lie right there. Yeah, hey, she used all the weapons, so maybe it's not so much a lie. And of course, he showed her his as well. So it was good to see them back, and some happy moments for the Stark family. And that's one of the reasons why I don't mind the episode a little bit slow, because for 7 seasons they've been through hell, they've been through a lot. So and there have been a lot of happy moments for them. So it was good to see them all in one place. Sansa finally met with her husband, or her ex-husband now. I'm not quite sure where she is now. She's a Bolton, or is she a Lannister, or is she still a Stark? I'm not quite sure how it works. I mean, she was already married to Tyrion before she was taken to the Bolton, so I guess she's still a Lannister. I guess she's still a Lannister, right? So it was good to see them come back together, and I mean, his recognition, and I wish a lot of people who hated on her recognized that, okay, she was one of the most irritating characters in season 1 and 2, but she has come a long way, and I mean, I think some forgiveness is earned at this point. And so listen to Tyrion. I mean, he made some valid points, right? A lot of people didn't have a lot of faith in her, but those people are dead, and she's still here. Although, one could argue that that's mostly a result of luck and not so much skill on her part. But she has learned a lot, and she has, at least, we have to give that to her. She knows Cersei well enough to know that, okay, hey, your sister said she's going to march her army north to help us fight, and you believe her. And she said, you used to be the smartest, says to Tyrion, you used to be the smartest guy that I know, and used to be the cleverest guy that I know. That doesn't seem to be the case. And he's been making a lot of, I don't know if this is intentional or not for the writers. I mean, he's been making a lot of bad decisions over the past 2 seasons, right? In as hand to Daenerys, I mean, a lot of decisions that he's made resulted in losses for her. And here he is again. If he goes through with relying on backup from Cersei, then this is going to be the greatest mistake that he has made. And if he doesn't come to his senses, he's no longer worthy of being hand. I'm sorry. Right? Hopefully, with Jaime's presence here, he will warn him that Cersei is just not coming. So I do hope that's the case. But Cersei is right. She's not coming. I mean, I don't think anyone. I suspect he believes that she's coming because, she says she's pregnant, and no one knows whether that's true or not. But at this point, why would you believe that she is actually pregnant? She's lied about it so much. Why would you think she wouldn't be lying now? So she obviously seems to be using, whether it's true or not, she seems to be using that as a ploy to get people to do what she wants them to do. So I really do hope Tyrion heeds Sansa's warning and not rely. I just hope that their plans, whatever it is it might be, doesn't hinge on them getting backup from Cersei, right? Because that's just not going to happen. And Jaime's arrival in Winterfell too, and his encounter with a character that he's not seen since season 1. right? And Bran, who he did push and made a cripple, right? The good news is, at this point, Bran doesn't care, right? Bran is no longer Bran, or at least not entirely. So he doesn't care that this guy essentially ruined his life. And I mean, listen, as someone who has not, well, I started reading the first book, but I have not completed the series of books. I like Bran for the first 2 or 3 seasons. I thought after he was crippled and they were okay, we're gonna go look for the three-eyed raven. I thought that he was going to somehow, hey, listen, this show has mysticism and magic and all of that, alright? I thought that somehow he was going to be able to walk again, or at the very least get some abilities that didn't just make him seem like he's staring off into the distance for no reason. I thought that she was going to be able to walk again and be of, I mean, he is of use. The knowledge that he has is helping and will help them. But Brandon just isn't, at this point in time, he's just kind of there for me, right? He's not my worst character, he's not my best, he's just Bran. And I suppose that's something compared to his brother. Yeah. So Jamie's gonna come face to face with Bran next episode, I suppose, and I don't know, whether or not they're gonna find out that he's there, obviously, because he clearly rode there to warn them. I'm assuming rode to warn them that Cersei is not coming. But will Jon be as forgiving, as he was for Theon, to say, okay, you did a lot of shit, but you did help my sister. Jamie hasn't really done anything to warrant forgiveness. So the first reaction will be to probably kill him. I do hope they do the smart thing and don't. Right? And I mean, Tyrion is there, so I think he will vouch for him, but there's just a lot of history. There's a lot of history with all of these characters, so it's very difficult for them to just come together and say, okay, I forgive you, and let's move on from there. And I think that's what this whole episode was about. It's not going to be that easy, right? So I do think the initial reaction is going to be for chain him up. We should kill him, especially with the other houses that are there now, and they remember all the treachery that the Lannisters have done to them, to their families. They're going to call for action, and they're going to want Jon to kill him, right? But I mean, he could act on it, but again, so far he's been, for whatever reason, whether you agree with the reasons leading him to making these decisions, he has suggested that okay, he's capable of seeing the bigger picture, and not necessarily act brash and irrationally and just act on impulses and kill Jamie without wondering why he's there, but I mean, there would be some deterrence to doing that anyway, because if they were expecting assistance from King's Landing, they wouldn't necessarily kill him and anger Cersei at the same time. So there are other alternatives, right? So I don't think the outcome, the end result will be them killing him, but it will be the first reaction to want to, though, especially considering that he pushed Bran off, he crippled Bran. But again, Bran doesn't care. And of course, the big revelation of this episode being, the Jon finally learning the truth about his parents and his heritage, right? And of course, it didn't necessarily come from a good place, because Sam was angry when he told him, and I think he's expecting him to do this because he doesn't feel Daenerys is a good fit. And I do hope Jon tackles it from a different angle and not necessarily that one, although I do understand Sam's anger. So he now knows the truth about his parents, what exactly, and Yeah, it's weird. You just had sex with your aunt. Yeah, tough one to swallow. Um, but of course, I mean, my initial reaction was that okay. Did you think Sam was lying because he was just giving him that look like, what are you talking about, right? Which is again a natural reaction, but I thought it was going to be anger. I thought Sam was lying or something, but maybe Bran was right in that he trusts him more than anyone else. I don't know why he wouldn't have trusted Bran though. I mean, he's his brother and he has no reason to lie to him. So I think that could have come from Bran and be effective, just as effective, if not more so, right? But it came from Sam. I mean, he believes him, but I mean, the first thing, I mean, his first thought was that okay, it would be treason to want the, I mean, I don't know, to want the throne, or because as Sam said, it's a fact, it's the truth. It's not that he's trying to overthrow her, right? That it's just a fact, and if they're able to prove it, because that's the other thing too. How do you at this point? How do they prove that okay, this is my mother and this was my father? They do have the diary from the Citadel, so I mean, I suppose that may be enough. If it is, and that's the question Sam raised, if it is enough and this is the truth and she learns the truth, will she accept it, right? Will Daenerys accept it? Yeah, I say no, right? The thing is, since season one, I mean, we've been following Daenerys on his journey since season one, and it's just been, I mean, not just her brother, but her brother Viserys as well. He's been beating this into her head. Okay, this is our heritage. This is ours. The throne is ours. This is our right. And that's all she's known her entire life. Okay, this is what I'm meant to be. This is mine. And of course, that's what she's been preaching this entire time, that this is my right. This is my right. This is my right. This belongs to me. And imagine doing that for years and years and years, and then someone tells you that okay, it's not yours. It's his. Right. So I don't know whether or not John will tell her just yet, or I mean, the fear of a broken alliance, decide to wait until after the war to make it known. That would be a smart thing to do. I mean, everything seems to be falling apart already. I mean, all of the houses are going back, they're leaving. So this might not necessarily be the smartest, the right time to say it. And I mean, we saw that before where Tyrion, horrible timing with his announcement. Just bad timing. Bad timing, Tyrion. Yeah, I don't know why the heck he would do that at that point, right? To tell everyone that the Lannisters are coming. Nobody likes the Lannisters. Will Jon tell her no or after the war? I think he should wait until after the war, but we both know that Jon sometimes does things that are just not rational. So if this is what he should do, he might do the opposite. So my money's on him doing the opposite, right? Unless someone smarter than him steps in. And I'm making no secret, I'm no fan of Jon. I think he's no one's armor is as protective as his than his plot armor, right? So don't hate him. He's an okay character. Just a lot of things happen to him out of sheer convenience and not because he's earned it or plot armor. But so I think he will make the decision. He will decide with his heart and not his head, and he will try to. He will want to tell her. Hopefully, someone steers him the other way, and wait until after the war, because they're already losing. They're already losing steam before it's even began. In terms of as for Daenerys, as I said before, I don't think she's gonna be. She'll want to give that right up. And I mean, Jon doesn't want it, so that's the other thing too. Now, whether he's the rightful heir or not, it's not something that he wants. He could just declare himself, and given that they have proof, and try to force her. But dragons, she bigger army, two dragons. He doesn't really have, he doesn't have the strength to make that decision, but to go that route, I mean. So yeah, I think that Daenerys won't give it up, but Jon himself doesn't want it. So I think it may come down to that. Letting her know, and I think he will. He will tell her that this is the situation, but I do not want the throne. And I think that in itself will earn his respect. She'll be more respectful of him if he comes off as someone who's not hungry for the throne, right? And I think with that will cement their relationship and their allegiance to each other, right? So he will indicate, he will say to her that, okay, this is right, but he's not interested in the throne, and I think she will see that he's a genuine person and he doesn't necessarily want it, and so we'll still see her being the person. I think at least for now, she'll still be queen, and later on, maybe after the war and after they've dealt with Cersei, they will both end up ruling, because that seems to be what they're pushing for. We had Varys and Tyrion talking before about bringing the houses, the common folk, and the leadership together under one. But the only way to do that is for them to, is for, basically what they're saying is for Jon and Daenerys to get married, right? So that seems to be where everything is pushing towards, okay? And that will certainly be the outcome at the end. I mean, from watching Game of Thrones, I would hope that we get something different, not just a happy ending tied with a neat little bow and everyone's happy and fine. I mean, that's not the Game of Thrones way, or at least it hasn't been. So I do hope that's not what we get. That would be a bit too predictable. I really hope we get something other than that. But that seems to be where it's pushing now, for Jon to decline, taking the throne for himself. Daenerys acknowledges that, okay, he's a great guy, he doesn't want the throne, so that makes him all the more fit for the throne, and they will get married eventually at the end, and yeah, happy ending. That's what I see happening. I do hope that they do something differently, with it. I mean, we don't have a lot of episodes this season. As I've said before, I was hoping that this episode would have hit the ground running, and they did do a time jump, because last season we left them on the ship, and now they're at Winterfell, so there was a time jump. I would have hoped that we would have seen something of the White Walkers, and we didn't. We didn't see them at all this episode, now that I think about it. There was that last shot, I forget his name, Redbeard I call him. But we did see them visit a village and find that little boy who that little boy ended up, he just left, and that means that they're close though, because I mean, he left somewhere like the beginning of the episode. I know we don't know how much time has passed between the scenes skipping back and forth, but he went back home to take horses and carriages to bring his people back to Winterfell, and I guess he didn't make it back, and he was turned. So I guess we did see a White Walker there, and the body parts that lined or around his body though, I'm like, okay, they've become very artistic. You know, it's like watching an episode of Dexter or something, you know, where these serial killers have these bodies in some very some very odd fashion, where they're trying to make a statement. Look at me, this is what I'm capable of. So that was very interesting. It's the first time I think I don't know, we saw something in the snow similar. So I was going to say it's the first time we've seen them do anything like that. It seemed unusual at the time. But I think the very first time we were introduced to White Walkers, just north of the wall, we did see like the number of bodies buried beneath the snow and in a pattern, right? So it's not the first time we've seen something like that, but it just struck me as odd. I guess, I don't know, that particular pattern just seemed very unique. I was like, they're very artistic, right? So yeah, I mean that's one episode down. I suspect again, because we have so much to cover in this season. I guess I was just expecting more, but the episode definitely didn't disappoint. I mean, it was clearly a character-driven episode, focusing on all of those characters that we've not seen for a very long time, and seeing them come back together, forming alliances and stuff. So, but the next episode, I do suspect we'll begin to see a bit more, because I mean, there's a lot that needs to be done within this season. The battle with the White Walkers, and then they have Cersei to deal with as well. So there's not a lot of episode left to go, and much to do in it. And this episode was, I believe it was supposed to be an hour, no? It didn't necessarily feel like it was an hour. I think it was like 55 minutes or 56, 57 minutes, somewhere there. I mean, it's still longer than what we would get before. Right, so it's still a bit longer. I thought, I don't know if I saw an announcement somewhere. I thought it was like an hour or a little bit more than an hour. And it's not one of those things where I've seen people complaining that, oh my God, why is it not an hour and a half? Why is it not 1 hour and 20 minutes? It doesn't. This is longer than most series actually give you. So the time is fine. Right? I just somehow, I don't know if I saw an announcement somewhere where it was supposed to be or not, and I could have been wrong. So the episode was fine. As I said, a very character-driven episode. Not so much focus on the action and the war as it is forming alliances and reintroducing us to the characters that we've not seen in a very long time, and where the relationships are now. New relationships with all the characters that we've not seen interacting for the first time. So they're showing us the different pieces on the board and where they are and where they will be moving to, and a glimpse of what we will be seeing for the rest of the season. Alright, so that is it. Season 8, episode 1. Definitely looking forward to the rest of the season. Be sure to post down in the comments to let me know what your thoughts are. What are your expectations for the next episode and the season overall? What did you think of this episode? Do you think it was a bit too slow, or did you enjoy the character moments and you're a fan with just waiting for the next episode for things to really ramp up? Alright, be sure to hit like or subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.